This book has been out for a few years now, and it's really good, all the secrets of how to live cheaply and healthily and happily. And this one's got vastly more still. It's got a DVD that you just wouldn't believe how much. I call it Dr Pat's Awesome Library. So grab it while you can. Just phone me up sometime. These dead trees have been mercilessly poisoned by people to give them better access to the boats and the beach and the views and things like that. To the left here that you can't see, but the mangroves are healthy, and without them we have an enormous problem of fish finding heritage places and good environment. The cute little boat there shows typical of many people living on boats and houseboats and things. And this is going to be TV 10, the 10th episode. And this will be escalating the men's shed movement details, plus more of my 1820 free tested inventions and discoveries for anybody about almost anything useful. Enjoy. Some members' tea break at our well-equipped Macleay Island men's shed. Manager of Hungarian extraction, Yasoda left and the author right. Now follows a 9-minute men's shed clip.
You don't have to look hard to find where the dream of the Australian Men's Shed Association was born. More than just tin and wood, sheds represent a sanctuary for men Australia-wide.
When men retire from work, they lose most of their social interaction, and I think in a shed, social inclusion is a big thing that men find they've all of a sudden come back. Now, if they're in retirement for a year or so, their mates sort of drop off and they're just at home, maybe getting under the wife's feet, that a shed will bring them back together and certainly have a social inclusion which they've been probably missing once they've left the workforce or they're retired.
I think it's a uniquely Australian idea in the sense that men having sheds is part of our traditional Australian culture in the same way as playing cricket in the backyard is part of our culture. What it's doing is creating an environment where men can get together, support each other, work shoulder to shoulder, have the kind of discussions that they wouldn't have anywhere else, and do it in an environment where they feel comfortable.
It's a place where people can come and talk and tell their woes, if they got any woes. But it's also a place where people can have a laugh.
Since 2007, the Australian Men's Shed Association has grown to become the largest men's support organisation in Australia, with over 45,000 members and 480 locations throughout Australia.
It wasn't until about 2006-07 that we actually realised what we were doing, and sheds were becoming a preventative measure in health. What we're doing is preventing men from becoming socially isolated. You know, quite often a guy retires from work and his work was his social life. You know, it's about 60% of his social life revolves around the workplace, and when he retires, he loses that. And with social isolation, then you have all these other triggers that come from it: substance abuse, depression, you know, even linking through to suicide. So all coming from being socially isolated. And in the men's health policy, we see that social isolation is the #1 killer of all men.
Well, I'm a major depressant, and with all the help and keep me mind active in what we're planning and what we're doing here, I find that it's extremely good and beneficial to me, and I don't suffer so much from depression anymore. I'm beyond it. Well, I think I'm beyond it.
I think by coming down here and talking to other men, that has given him an outlet, and being able to come home and speak to me about different things. When he just stayed at home, nothing happens much in a day. And I still work 4 days a week, so I would come home from work with lots of my information that I'd done through the day, but he really didn't have anything to contribute to the conversation, whereas now he does.
I have received some great positive feedback in regard to the benefits of the men's shed. One member of our community, this gentleman who was the main carer for his wife and children, told me that he was experiencing some downtime during the week. And that he felt isolated. He started to become quite angry. He referred to himself as Angry Man. After being introduced to the men's shed, he participating in other activities, and woodwork, etc., he felt that it made him a better man when he went home to his family. It's then that I realised the great benefits that the men's shed has for not only men within our community, but families and the broader community in general.
Yeah, well, men, we all come from different walks of life and things like this. Some of us come in with problems, and this is what these buildings are for. We break down the barriers and we can communicate to one another. This is what a men's shed should be, to build up your strength and resolve to be able to go back to your folks, back into the community.
We've got use for our skills again, because once you retire, you don't use them anymore. Here's a place we can come and do it.
You need to turn up the right way.
Certainly mentoring within a men's shed is something that's developed and grown on its own, basically, because now younger men and youths are starting to come into the sheds and just talk to the older guys, and the older guys are thinking, well, there's someone who might want to, pick up a couple of things that I know, and vice versa. So mentoring roles are certainly something that's developed in a great way.
The older people, they help me out lots. Like at the moment I'm building a set of chest of drawers, which I'm getting to learn how to build drawers from them, and they're teaching me that.
The unique strength of the Australian Men's Shed Association is that on every level it gives back to the local community.
We do a lot of community work out there, and we work for them and aid them in what they're doing as well. And that's part of everything that we do.
I've certainly seen in my local area in Melton that the men's shed is making a difference for the whole of the community. You get interesting partnerships and links, people who don't have the skills to make things, relying on the men's shed to bring those skills and get things done.
We've contacted the shed and asked if they could help us to build some things. One was a big seat that we came down with a number of students, and the men helped the students to build the seat. They taught the students how to use the tools that we didn't have at the school. Together they worked on these projects, and the students learned a lot, and the men enjoyed working with the students.
Yeah, I'd done a project about a week ago, which was a round wheel type thing with bells on it, and it was for a little boy who was disabled. And I presented it to his mum and dad here at the shed, and they were pleased with it. And when the little boy saw it, his face just lit up, and that was it for me. I was pleased that he was pleased, and I was pleased that his mum and dad were pleased, and it was just beautiful, And that's part of being in the men's shed. You help people out,
And you want to see the smile on their face taking them out the door and into the bus. And I think there's nothing better than that.
It makes me feel good inside, It makes me feel proud that I'm doing something for the community as well as the other disabled people as well.
From the point of view of government, you would notice two things: the spectacular growth in the number of men's sheds, so there obviously is a demand because people want them in local communities, and with that growth has come the need for more governance, and the Australian Men's Sheds Association has achieved that. So that's given us somewhere we can go to have discussions and work out how we can support men's sheds right around the nation.
The Men's Shed Association itself, I think, is a massive thing, especially for the men of this state and right around Australia. and the more we can expand it, the better we're going to be.
I work at Bunnings in Melton, and I approached the men's shed and asked them if there was some way that we could help them through the store. So when the shed first opened, we helped them build the raised garden beds outside, and Peter, one of the guys, he heads up the garden group, and we worked with him, and we built the raised garden beds. Then our horticulturalist came out and spent a bit of time with them, and it's been really good. It's been a great partnership. We've been helping them out and they help us out.
With a movement like this that is becoming so deeply rooted in communities and getting so much community acceptance, it is a good way of corporate Australia showing that it cares and making a difference in people's lives. I describe myself as a big fan of the idea, and certainly my partner Tim is very passionate and enthusiastic about men's sheds, and so I hear about it a lot.
Men in retirement is going to actually double by 2030. So a place for now, but also a place for men to go to in the future, and very important.
It may be a matter of simply donating money. It might be simply a matter of donating materials. Your business may have a lot of surplus equipment, a lot of surplus stock that a men's shed can use in your area. So please help us out and contact your nearest shed or the Australian Men's Shed Association.
Get behind us, help us out.
Sydney Indigenous carvings. From 1952 to 53 we discovered scads near French's Forest and Monavale Road, Sydney. A friend Diane Kernsley tracked 1800s newspaper cop chase convict descriptions. Note 14 to 15 Ray Sun and Big Lady where north points top left. Moronic development hid tracks and carvings, though one chap recarved his front carvings on rocks behind his house, just beating the bulldozers. A boulder-diverted creek flowed down carved pools, we discovered. Such engineering and boat plus X-ray fish carvings are more Maori-like, I think, after perhaps a long storm blew them off course. Universal Sign Language. 1946, when we were there visiting, just after the war, a British junior school disallowed dining room talk, so kids switched to deaf and dumb, we called it, not yet signing that eldest son Mark needed and taught in America. Aussie signing seems easiest. Simplified and taught to 1.5-year-old babies results in 12 points higher IQ and better reading on reaching 6 years. Likewise, swimming starting even earlier. Urination assist. For anyone, particularly urination and prostate sufferers, I found that having pissed there is much more to expel as follows. Firmly dig 2 middle fingers of each hand, 4 fingers separated by a 4-finger space, all in a horizontal line on the stomach centre, halfway between navel and pubic bone. Now, without scraping across actual skin, simply massage deeply inwards and downwards towards the said pubic bone several times and bingo. Is it the same for females? I'm not quite sure. Let me know, somebody. The sketch illustrates. 2 fingers of one hand also work if on the loo, even through clothes. Incidentally, if you pick your nose with finger A, don't use it to control genitals when urinating, etc. Anybody think of that? Electronic non-computer circuit database. Former electronics design was far more interesting compared with boring modern chips. Circuits took months until a fully value engineered, check documented and environmentally satisfactory tested prototype was ready. Thus, since 1947, from magazines I've collected thousands of published and home circuits and mechanics. So to design, say, a low-level electrometer, my copied unit is functional in days. Electronica, say Bell Telephone Laboratories, make the best, sometimes frustrated managers because of immense complex circuit decisions they must rapidly evolve. By 1967, as Chief Engineer Plasma Physics, that's not blood, that's gas plasma, I proposed a Sydney University-wide electronics research and development, plus circuit databasing to avoid ludicrous duplication. Now, Professor Messel then sadly couldn't see advantages, so I took off overland as British Robotic Machine Tools Chief Engineer. I still seek a database home, so death doesn't lose this treasure. Lousy TV signal you got? Get a cheap, small RCA-style antenna Y-plug for the TV or video antenna socket. Into one of the 2 Y sockets, insert usual antenna plug and twiddle antenna for best signal. Now into the second socket insert another antenna, whether indoor or outdoor, or an indoor amplifier antenna, and twiddle it for best overall reception on all channels. On Macleay Island we increased receivable signals from, that's analog signals now, from 6 to 11. Haven't yet tried putting another Y onto the first Y to enable 3 antennas to merge signals. It's amazing how ghosting and shonky picture sound also vanished both in Australia and Britain. Brushless motor generators. There are vast renewable energy resources, much less than 1 volt DC, and millions of amps to be harnessed by an efficient brushless motor generator set without moving contacts, like a school version of Faraday generator where magnet rotates, not the wire and the mercury as illustrated. Note, homopolar high current fraction volt motor concept needing double magnetic shielding. Many efficient variations possible, like batten twirling magnets, and prizes I offer. Stopcocks are steam feedwater pump cheap alternative. An island steamboat loses power when feedwater pump is cut in. E equals a steam boiler, shaded areas equals water, A and B are stopcocks turned out of phase, manually or auto. C is a funnel for feedwater. D equals a pressure water steam holding tank. So close B, open A, and steam in D escapes, followed by water entering D via A. I hope you're recording all this, by the way, the general public from TV. Shut A, open B, and steam from E displaces D, water, into E whilst filling D with steam, and so on. Device can use liquid metals, thermo liquids, etc. My simplest ever steam pump. Apply controlled blowtorch to the closed tip flash tube very carefully, end, and thin metal J-pipe engine. Steam drives water up vertical pipe just past a one-way valve to wherever. The steam condenses to suck up or allow water via lower valve into the upper part of the J for steaming for another pumping cycle about every second. The lowest curved part of the J where condensing occurs preferably has a suddenly enlarged section to speed cooling, possibly isolated with a wooden or other float to maintain more steam heat during expansion. Mercury in this section could isolate dirty pumping water from a better thermal liquid, but can also give magnetic hydrodynamic electric power directly using a strong magnet. See my book or CD Ecologistics for many variations. Spectacles unaltered become ×5 zoom telescope. Telescopes normally require a main convex lens and concave eyepiece. However, long-sighted folk already have a partially concave eye lens, so by holding either lens to either eye, rotating for best astigmatic correction at anywhere up to arm's length, distant objects miraculously zoom. I surreptitiously read remote computers, street signs, menus and newspapers across the road, boat details, and enjoy distant birds. By wearing glasses you squint less in bright light because the side angle light exceeding Brewster's angle is reflected away. I put glasses upside down for easier computer watching with reading lens on top, but check astigmatism once again if it's a problem. For close electronic or clockwork I put backup glasses over the first pair. Cheap room space savers. The triangular wardrobe is a stick plus curtain across a room corner. Shelves are better concrete blocks, as you'll see in the pictures of my house here, and planks with cloth curtain pinned to the plank. Big sleeping space is a mezzanine level built into the room, especially in small apartments like in London, which gives a great view, else often claustrophobic windows. If you put a table along the bed end, guests can sit on the bed end, as I have here, at said table to save about 3 chairs and loads of space. Harmonica help. 1950s was okay to practice while driving, and lacking music reading skill I came up with weird playing methods crammed with notes and special effect for my 1957 band sing-along group, like a wire guitar effect by connecting a tiny microphone to the unit with reduced amplifier treble. I was then in CSIRO's solar physics electronics, so in 57, so built a pedal percussion accompaniment from LRC tuned circuits, feeding the amplifier with gorgeous pure notes. Then the Cano Beano phone, in which harmonica snuggled into a long mating bean can slot to help hand vibrato. Fingernails flicking corrugated sides give kind of a washboard effect, whilst tapping left end of the can is a drum effect. Great fun. Curiously, I found that almost every tune can become a tango. Can? Excuse pun. Kids calculating card from 1980. A radical simplifying tool inspires fun arithmetic, plus and minus, multiplying, dividing, and basic related graphs. It's also a clever calculator. Now only a quarter times tables or entries are needed. Instead of 444, there's only 36 to remember. Non-decimal units, dimensions, and pound, shilling, and pence currency consumed a quarter of kids' learning, all of which I abhorred. A relative called Lord Fisk created decimalisation with automatic inflation built in. Only part of the card is shown here. Social status. Well before the 22nd century, 1/7 of society will be in hospital or disabled. The same percentage will be in jails, plus the same as in will become carers. The same unemployed, and the 1/7 is spread between military, school, young or retired. It will be a largely inept, incapable and techno-moronical society. But what about the near future climate? A stay-at-home self-sufficient partner can more than compensate for not having a job. During my familiar ancestry Viking days, the island with few global emissions was titled Greenland, because then it was green, as was Labrador. Then it wasn't. Now it is, with green meadows, cattle, farming, and gorgeous wildflowers. Room configuration matrix is ideal. Usual room placement is irrational. Road noise means laundry, toilet, pantry, shower, work and rumpus, passage access and store should be near the road. Bedrooms downstairs, not upstairs if you've got an upstairs. Lounge, kitchen, dining upstairs where heat isn't lost. And view, summer breezes and solar is better. Then utilities, shower, water heating, laundry, can warm living working areas above or adjacent, including kitchen for single story. The British Building Research Establishment is starting to agree with my ideas now, or have been for a long time. Low sweetness vacuum packed jams. Without water, cook mixed fruit till soft. Can blend or mash part way through cooking. Mix in 1/5 the fruit weight of honey or sugar, instead of the usual equal fruit weight of honey or sugar. When boiling, pour into clean, tight metal lid jars for the vacuum. Immediately store upside down. Resultant tough vacuum lasts for years, yet not once opened, but it's too fruity addictive anyway and makes great cordial. Fruit preserving. A 5-day champagne. True. Near fill big jars with fruit, berries, grapes, cut mangoes. Add water to 2 centimeters at the top and seldom add sugar. No cooking yeast or additives. Screw on strong, gas-tight, usually metal lid. Place in warmish room or car for 3 to 5 days with occasional shaking or driving. Fruit slowly ferments to weak preserving alcohol or strong fizzy champagne if it's grapes. They have a lot more yeast and a lot more sugar in them. Plus, it gives carbon dioxide. Eat remainder and drink wine soon, if not years later. Once open, pickle could result. What a planet saver, using recycled jars and good lids to preserve nutrition without sugary overcooking for the whole of cool climate. Half-cut fruit, pawpaw, apples, carrots, sweet potatoes and berries, etc. store well underwater, in or outside the fridge. In fact, in case for weeks and months. I call all this ever more popular sustainable home engineering. So again, we appreciate you all and welcome to check us out. Sincerely and sustainably. Dr. Pat. Join us again next week for more of my 1820 awesome free operational inventions and discoveries, about a third of Thomas Edison's, yet vastly wider range than his. Besides, I'm not dead yet. Now this amazing little creek, stream, I've been looking for that is permanent in this way for 26 odd years, and finally discovered one that seems to be from a swamp, but it's also part of filling from a little spring. It's beautifully cool and clear fresh water, so it's an amazing discovery, and goes out and flows out to the mud in the bay and past a whole lot of microscopic little crabs. This book has been out for a few years now, and it's really good, all the secrets of how to live cheaply and healthily and happily. And this one's got vastly more still. It's got a DVD that you just wouldn't believe how much. I call it Dr. Pat's Awesome Library. So grab it while you can. Just phone me up sometime.